Have you ever jolted awake at 3 a.m., heart racing, with the inexplicable sensation that you're not alone in your bedroom? This mysterious phenomenon, experienced by countless people worldwide, holds a profound spiritual significance that few understand. Padre Pio, one of the most revered mystics of our time, warned his followers about this precise vulnerability, the spiritual battle that ensues while we sleep, when our conscious defenses are lowered and our souls are most susceptible to spiritual interference. What if there was a simple, powerful practice that could transform your nights from battlegrounds of spiritual unrest to sanctuaries of divine peace? The answer lies in an ancient Catholic tradition that has been protecting the faithful for over 1,500 years, yet remains largely unknown to many believers today. This powerful spiritual shield isn't an elaborate ritual requiring special training or exclusive knowledge. It's accessible to anyone seeking protection from negative spiritual influences that disturb their sleep and peace of mind. Padre Pio himself recommended this practice to countless troubled souls who came to him experiencing nightmares, insomnia, and unexplainable sensations of dread during the night hours, and the transformations they reported were nothing short of miraculous. Before revealing this life-changing secret that has transformed thousands of lives, you must understand something crucial about this teaching. The power doesn't lie in the object itself. This isn't about superstition or magical thinking. Rather, it's about activating the profound spiritual authority that has been granted to every believer through faith. When you implement this simple nighttime ritual with sincere faith and proper understanding, you're not just performing a symbolic act. You're invoking centuries of spiritual power and protection that have been confirmed through countless testimonies across generations. Are you ready to discover what happens when ancient spiritual wisdom meets your modern nighttime routine? The St. Benedict medal is far more than a religious trinket or decorative item. It stands as one of the most powerful sacramentals recognized by the Church, a spiritual weapon against darkness that bears the weight of centuries of spiritual authority. On its surface, this small disc contains a remarkable concentration of prayers and sacred symbols, including the powerful Vade retro Satana, step back Satan, essentially carrying an exorcistic prayer wherever it goes. The medal features Saint Benedict holding his rule in one hand and the cross in the other, surrounded by Latin initials representing a prayer of exorcism against Satan and protection against temptation, poison, and disease. The origins of this medal trace back to the 6th century monasteries where Saint Benedict, the father of Western monasticism, engaged in spiritual warfare while establishing communities dedicated to prayer and work. Throughout history, the medal has been associated with countless miracles and protections, from healing the sick to purifying poisoned water and shielding believers from spiritual attacks. Its power was so widely acknowledged that in 1880, Pope Leo XIII granted special blessings to the medal and standardized its design, cementing its place as an officially sanctioned spiritual shield within the Church. Padre Pio, who experienced some of the most intense spiritual battles recorded in modern times, was known to keep these medals close and distribute them to those under spiritual attack. What makes this medal unique among sacramentals is its explicit focus on spiritual protection and exorcism. It doesn't merely symbolize faith, it actively invokes divine protection against evil forces. Each letter inscribed on the medal represents words from a powerful prayer. May the Holy Cross be my light. Let not the dragon be my guide. Begone, Satan. Never tempt me with your vanities. What you offer me is evil. Drink your own poison. When blessed by a priest, these words don't just represent spiritual concepts. They activate a tangible spiritual authority that has been documented to repel negative forces. This is why Padre Pio and countless other spiritual directors have recommended it specifically for those battling unexplained disturbances, particularly during the vulnerable hours of sleep. When you place a blessed Saint Benedict medal under your pillow before sleep, you're not simply performing a devotional gesture. You're establishing a powerful spiritual boundary around your most vulnerable hours. Many who have adopted this practice report almost immediate changes. Persistent nightmares that plagued them for years suddenly cease. The oppressive weight of anxiety that typically descends at bedtime lifts, and that inexplicable sense of being watched or threatened during the night hours dissipates. The medal creates what spiritual directors describe as a sanctuary effect, transforming your bed from a place of vulnerability to a consecrated space where divine protection reigns throughout the night. The scientific explanation for these effects remains elusive to modern research, but thousands of testimonies across cultures and centuries tell the same story. Something profound happens in the spiritual realm when this sacramental is properly used with faith. Some report experiencing vivid, spiritually significant dreams that provide guidance or comfort after beginning this practice. Others describe waking with an unusual sense of peace and spiritual clarity that carries throughout their day. Perhaps most significantly, those who have struggled with inexplicable insomnia or night terrors, conditions that often have spiritual components unaddressed by conventional medicine, frequently report dramatic improvements within days of implementing this simple practice. If you believe this ancient spiritual wisdom could transform your nights the same way it has for countless others throughout history, take a moment right now to type in the comments, "I'm ready for peaceful nights." Your public declaration of faith is the first step toward activating this powerful spiritual protection in your own life. Remember that the medal isn't magical. Its power comes from your faith combined with the spiritual authority vested in this sacramental through centuries of prayer and church blessing. Whether you're currently experiencing spiritual disturbances or simply seeking deeper peace during your rest, this hidden wisdom from Padre Pio offers a doorway to nights filled with divine protection and spiritual renewal. The connection between sleep and spiritual vulnerability isn't merely religious folklore. It's a reality acknowledged across numerous spiritual traditions and increasingly supported by modern psychological understanding. During sleep, particularly during REM cycles, your conscious mind's barriers lower, creating both opportunity for divine inspiration and, unfortunately, vulnerability to negative spiritual influences. This is why dreams have been considered spiritually significant across cultures and why sleep disturbances often accompany periods of spiritual warfare. The St. Benedict medal works at precisely this intersection between your physical rest and spiritual reality, creating what might be called a consecrated sleep environment that supports both physical restoration and spiritual protection. What makes this particular sacramental so effective during sleep is its comprehensive spiritual formula. While many religious items carry general blessings, the St. Benedict medal contains specific exorcistic prayers that directly address and repel negative spiritual entities. When placed under your pillow, these prayers operate continuously throughout your sleep cycle, creating an ongoing spiritual shield that works whether you're consciously aware of it or not. This is similar to how the protective properties of physical medication continue working while you sleep, except in this case the protection operates on the spiritual level, addressing forces that exist beyond material measurement, but nevertheless impact your well-being. The effectiveness of this practice also stems from its integration of multiple spiritual principles: the power of blessed objects, the authority of exorcistic prayer, the spiritual lineage tracing back to Saint Benedict's own spiritual battles, and the individual's personal faith. This combination creates what spiritual directors describe as a multiplied protection, where each element reinforces the others to create a spiritual shield stronger than any single approach could provide. For those experiencing persistent spiritual disturbances during sleep, this multi-layered protection often succeeds where isolated approaches have failed, which explains why Padre Pio so frequently recommended this specific practice to those suffering from unexplained nighttime disturbances or chronic spiritual warfare. Padre Pio's recommendation of placing the St. Benedict medal under the pillow stems from his profound understanding of nighttime spiritual vulnerability, knowledge gained through his own extraordinary experiences of spiritual warfare. As one of the few saints in church history to bear the stigmata, the wounds of Christ, for over 50 years, he experienced intense spiritual attacks, particularly during the night hours. His personal chambers were known to be battlegrounds of spiritual warfare, with witnesses reporting strange noises, physical disturbances, and Padre Pio himself emerging from nights visibly exhausted from spiritual combat. From this first-hand experience came his practical wisdom about nighttime protection, including his frequent counsel to use the St. Benedict medal specifically during sleep. What many don't realize is that this practice represents a forgotten wisdom once commonly taught to the faithful, but gradually obscured in our increasingly materialistic world. In previous generations, spiritual directors regularly instructed believers about protecting their sleep, recognizing it as a crucial component of spiritual well-being. The medal under the pillow tradition combines ancient monastic wisdom with practical, accessible application, making sophisticated spiritual protection available to ordinary believers without requiring extensive theological knowledge. This accessibility was central to Padre Pio's pastoral approach, providing powerful spiritual tools that could be implemented by anyone, regardless of their education or spiritual sophistication. The medal's effectiveness during sleep also connects to traditional understanding about the relationship between physical objects and spiritual reality. While modern thinking often creates a sharp division between material and spiritual realms, traditional wisdom recognized that physical items could be vessels of spiritual power when properly blessed and used with faith. The medal under the pillow creates what theologians call a point of contact, a physical anchor for spiritual authority that helps bridge the gap between material and immaterial realms. This principle explains why many who implement this practice report sensing a tangible difference in their sleep environment, describing their bedrooms as feeling lighter, clearer, or protected in ways they cannot fully articulate but nonetheless clearly experience. The first pillar of nighttime spiritual protection through the St. Benedict medal is physical consecration, transforming your sleep space from ordinary to sacred through the presence of a blessed object. This isn't merely symbolic but creates a tangible spiritual effect described in theological terms as sanctifying space. When you place the blessed medal under your pillow, you're essentially establishing a boundary that designates your sleep area as protected and claimed for divine purposes. This consecration works similar to how ancient sanctuaries functioned, creating a defined space where different spiritual rules apply and where negative forces are actively repelled rather than permitted to operate freely. This is why many report that their entire bedroom seems to take on a different atmosphere after implementing this practice consistently. The second pillar is continuous prayer, allowing the exorcistic formulas inscribed on the medal to maintain an ongoing spiritual petition throughout your sleep hours. While your conscious mind rests, the medal's prayers continue their spiritual function, similar to how early monastics developed the practice of praying without ceasing through cyclical prayer rhythms. The medal essentially maintains a prayer vigil on your behalf during the hours when you cannot consciously pray for yourself. This continuous prayer creates what spiritual directors call a prayer shield, a persistent spiritual covering that doesn't depend on your awareness or active participation to remain effective. For those who struggle with intrusive thoughts or spiritual attacks upon waking or falling asleep, this continuous prayer presence provides crucial protection during these vulnerable transition periods. The third pillar is faith activation, your conscious belief and intention that empower the medal beyond its physical properties. Without this element, the medal remains merely a piece of metal. With it, the medal becomes a conduit for divine protection aligned with centuries of spiritual authority. This activation begins with your decision to use the medal with sincere faith rather than superstition, continues with any prayers you personally say while placing it under your pillow, and extends to your ongoing trust in its protective function. Many spiritual directors recommend a simple prayer while placing the medal, such as, "Lord, through the intercession of Saint Benedict and the power of this blessed medal, protect my sleep from all spiritual harm and grant me peaceful rest in your presence." This conscious participation connects your personal faith with the communal faith embodied in the medal's blessing, creating what theologians call cooperative grace, divine action working in partnership with human faith. Maria had suffered from chronic nightmares for over 20 years, vivid, terrifying dreams that left her afraid to sleep and chronically exhausted. Medical interventions provided little relief, and sleep specialists could only offer temporary solutions through medication that left her groggy throughout the day. After learning about the St. Benedict medal practice, she approached it with cautious skepticism, but desperate hope. "The very first night, I slept through completely without a single nightmare," she recounts. "After 3 weeks, I realized I hadn't had a single nightmare since starting this practice, the longest peaceful period I'd experienced in 2 decades. Now, 3 years later, Maria keeps a blessed medal permanently sewn into her pillowcase and shares her story with others suffering from unexplained sleep disturbances. James, a businessman who frequently traveled for work, had always experienced unsettling sensations in hotel rooms, inexplicable anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and occasionally even seeing shadowy figures in the room corners during the night. These experiences were affecting his work performance and making travel, which was essential to his career, increasingly difficult. After learning about the medal from an elderly priest, he began carrying a blessed St. Benedict medal in his travel kit and placing it under his hotel pillows. The difference was immediate and dramatic, he shares. Hotel rooms that previously felt oppressive or unsettling suddenly felt normal, even peaceful. The shadowy figures never returned, and I now sleep soundly wherever I travel. James notes that while he doesn't understand exactly how the metal works, the consistent results have made him a believer in its effectiveness. Perhaps most remarkable are the stories from parents who have used the metal to help children suffering from night terrors or inexplicable fear of bedtime. 10-year-old Sophie had developed such severe fear of sleeping alone that she had been sleeping in her parents' room for over a year, disrupting the entire family's rest. Child psychologists had suggested various behavioral approaches with limited success. Her mother, remembering her own grandmother's devotion to Saint Benedict, placed a blessed metal under Sophie's pillow without mentioning it to her. That night, for the first time in over a year, Sophie slept peacefully in her own bed, her mother reports. When I asked her the next morning why she wasn't afraid, she simply said, "The bad things couldn't come in my room last night." Sophie has continued sleeping in her own room since that night, unaware of the metal's presence, but clearly benefiting from its protection. The first essential element for effectively using the Saint Benedict metal under your pillow is proper blessing. While any metal depicting Saint Benedict carries some significance, its full spiritual authority is activated through specific blessing by a priest using the proper blessing formula for this sacramental. This isn't merely a formality but a crucial step that incorporates the metal into the Church's spiritual authority and protection. The traditional blessing includes exorcism prayers specifically intended to imbue the metal with protective power against evil influences. If possible, seek a priest familiar with the traditional blessing of the Saint Benedict metal, as this specific formula greatly enhances its effectiveness. If you already have an unblessed metal, don't be discouraged. Simply bring it to your parish priest and request a blessing before beginning this practice. The second critical factor is approaching the metal with proper spiritual understanding, neither as a superstitious charm nor as a merely decorative religious symbol. The metal works at the intersection of divine grace and human faith, requiring both to function optimally. Approach it with reverent respect but not fearful superstition, with confident faith but not magical expectations. Many people inadvertently diminish the metal's effectiveness by treating it as a good luck charm or using it without any spiritual engagement. Ideally, placing the metal should be accompanied by a moment of prayer that acknowledges its purpose and invokes divine protection for your sleep. This doesn't need to be elaborate. A simple prayer like, "Lord, through this blessed metal and the intercession of Saint Benedict, protect my sleep and grant me peaceful rest," sufficiently activates your faith connection to the sacramental's purpose. The third element is consistency and patience in its application, avoiding the common mistake of sporadic use or premature abandonment of the practice. While many experience immediate results, the metal's protection sometimes builds gradually, establishing a cumulative spiritual effect that strengthens over time. Some report that the full benefits emerge after 9 to 27 days of consistent use, these numbers having spiritual significance in many traditions. If you don't experience dramatic changes immediately, continue the practice faithfully. Many of the most powerful testimonies come from those who persisted through an initial period where results seemed subtle or inconsistent. Another common mistake is removing the metal after problems subside, which can allow negative influences to gradually return. Instead, consider this practice a spiritual hygiene routine that maintains protection rather than a temporary intervention used only during crises. Tonight stands as your threshold moment, the dividing line between accepting disturbed sleep as inevitable and embracing the profound peace that comes from spiritually protected rest. This isn't merely about improving sleep quality. It's about reclaiming sacred territory in your spiritual life that may have been compromised without your awareness. The hours you spend in sleep represent nearly a third of your life, time that can either be spiritually vulnerable or powerfully protected depending on the choices you make today. By implementing this simple yet profound practice shared by Padre Pio, you're joining countless others throughout history who have discovered that nights don't have to be battlegrounds. They can be sanctuaries of divine peace and spiritual renewal. The practical steps forward are simple. Obtain a Saint Benedict medal, available at most Catholic bookstores or online religious suppliers. Have it properly blessed by a priest, and tonight, before you sleep, place it under your pillow with a prayer of faith. As you do, recognize that you're not merely performing a religious routine. You're actively participating in an ancient spiritual tradition that connects your personal faith with centuries of spiritual wisdom and authority. The metal creates what spiritual directors call a thin place, a location where the boundary between heavenly protection and earthly vulnerability becomes more permeable, allowing divine grace to flow more freely into your sleep environment. This isn't about escaping reality, but about embracing a fuller reality that includes spiritual dimensions often neglected in our materialistic world. The enemy never sleeps, but through this ancient wisdom, you can sleep in perfect peace. As you implement this practice tonight, you join a communion of believers across time who have discovered this hidden pathway to protected rest. Whether you're currently experiencing spiritual disturbances or simply seeking deeper peace, the St. Benedict medal under your pillow offers a doorway to nights filled with divine protection. Remember that this sacramental isn't magical. Its power flows from the faith you bring to it combined with the spiritual authority vested in it through proper blessing. Tonight can be the beginning of a profound transformation in your sleep experience, and through it, a renewal of your waking life as well. The choice now stands before you. Will you continue in vulnerability or step into the protected peace that awaits?